Thanks for joining us. Always great to have Connie Carson back on the program for another Belleville Memories segment. And joining us now, back with us on Quinte Connection after quite some time, is Andy Sparling from the Commodores Orchestra. So Andy, great to have you on.
Hi Lindsay, thanks for having me.
Well, we've got the Father's Day concert coming up on June 18th, pretty soon, the first gig in a while. So walk us through the band and the history of the band.
Well, it's Canada's oldest big swing band. Maybe I shouldn't say oldest, I'm not an original member, but it is 97 years for this band. Its history and culture intertwined with the history of the city of Belleville, obviously, for all of those years. Back in the late 40s and the early 50s, this is a swing dance band that was playing for 2,500 to 3,000 people per week, 4 nights a week at the old Club Commodore on the fairgrounds. And so it was synonymous with Belleville. And so over the years, there have been some leaner years in the last 30 or 40. I've been in the band 33 years now, but I'm still considered a rookie, I think. That's just a joke. But we haven't been playing actually since the pandemic started. When the pandemic began, it was the first year in which we had not played at least one gig. So, that was kind of sad. However, hope springs eternal. The musicians still wanted to play, and we got rehearsing again in this past year. And so we've lined up what looks to be a structure for a year for some gigs that we can keep going at least for another year and keep it going. Tough to keep things going when you're a band this size.
Yeah, and how was it keeping the band together as the pandemic continues to progress, especially in the earlier days?
Well, before the pandemic, we played maybe 7 or 8 times a year. And so when it hit, everything dropped. We didn't play. We are a little bit older and we weren't particularly interested in gathering in rehearsal rooms to play. So, but as things eased up, we checked everybody out. You want to keep going? You want to rehearse? And the answer was yes. And so we started to rehearse. And so this year we've been looking for places to play. One of the disappointments for us was that we were not included in the program to play at Zwick's Park this year. So we decided to start our own show, play our own show. So we're doing this free concert for the public at the Bernice Parrott stage at Market Square at Belleville City Hall, just so that our fans who come to depend on seeing us each summer at Zwick's can have a relatively, easy alternative to come and see us.
So June 18th, 6 p.m., do you have kind of a set list worked out at this point? And how many folks are in the band right now?
Oh, it's fully authentic. It's 18, which is bigger than it used to be in its heyday. Dance bands at that time, it was a 13 or 14 piece, but we are a fully authentic big swing band size, which means 5 saxophones, 4 trumpets, 4 trombones, piano, bass, drums, guitar, and a vocalist for 18. So as far as the set list is concerned, some pretty cool things happening. We're not just playing In the Mood by Glenn Miller and so on and so forth, although we're doing some of those things. But we have had, very luckily, and one of the things that's kept us going, Brian Barlow, who is a Grammy-winning drummer. He was with Rob McConnell and the Boss Brass in the 80s and 90s that won 2 or 3 Grammys back at the time as the world's best jazz orchestra. Anyway, he lives around here. He's done a total of about 60 arrangements, or 70, I guess, by now, specifically for us. And so they are things that kind of keep us a little bit more au courant, shall I say. For example, Ray Charles went through a big band phase where he did things like Hallelujah, I Love Her So. It's almost like a gospel kind of thing. And so we have dueling saxophones soloing on that. So it's really, really exciting. And so we have a number of things like that. Of course, we do the whole, if you're into the Rat Pack and Sinatra, we're going to be doing a bunch of that stuff. You want to see a real jazz big band drummer, come and see Brian Barlow. He's going to be drumming for us. This is a guy who is probably the #1 studio session drummer in Canada and has been for 20 or 30 years. So, and plus the other thing I want to say is that the musicians in this band, unlike the old days when, horn players were everywhere, saxophones, trumpets, trombones, Belleville could supply everything that we needed. Of course, you can't do that anymore because you just don't have the players. So our players come from Oshawa, Kingston, Peterborough, the county, Coburg. And so that's why it's been a little bit difficult to keep things going because, some of these people are driving for an hour, hour and a half each way in order to just come to rehearsals. So, but because we have this new music, and while it's still we're still who we are, but it's made it really interesting for the musicians to keep playing because we're playing these great arrangements. One of the other cool things is I wrote one other book other than the one on the Commodores about a wartime band called the RCAF Streamliners that my father was a member of, and the only Air Force or Canadian military band that played next to the front lines during World War II. During the Battle of the Bulge, they actually were at an air base in Eindhoven, Holland, that came under attack, a fearsome attack by the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. And so I did a book on that. Long story short, got some of the old music, and Mr. Barlow, our arranger, has adapted a couple of those tunes for the Commodores. So we're actually going to be playing original arrangements by the RCAF Streamliners, of which my dad was a member, at our show on June 18th. So it's kind of cool. We're trying to, in terms of the history of these bands, because back then, of course, these bands were popular music. These bands were Justin Bieber. These bands were, who the big stars are today. And these bands played at the Memorial Arena in downtown Belleville. Duke Ellington, Tommy Dorsey. There's never been a period of music in which jazz was the popular music of the day. And it's just like, hey, you want to think of it this way, Lindsey? Think of Justin Bieber playing at Memorial Arena, the old Memorial Arena in downtown Belleville. Hey, we'll just take it back 60 years and you get us, all right?
There you go. Well, Andy, it's a free show, as you mentioned, but you're collecting proceeds for an organization. Which one's this?
Fixed for Life. That's a really worthwhile organization that we are pairing up with for this concert, and we're going to be doing a collection for them. And we're happy to have their participation too. We've been busy trying to put up posters in a few vet offices in order to get that audience to come out and join us as well. So Fixed for Life will be whatever they manage to collect. We managed to collect during a collection. We'll be going to Fixed for Life.
Neat. Well, we're on the show on a good note here. Once again, the Commodores back in action June 18th at 6 p.m. here at Belleville Market Square, just behind City Hall. Andy Sparling, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And on behalf of all our guests, have a good summer, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Lindsey. Been a pleasure.